Hello. So, good morning. I've been up a few hours and doing some stuff, and I thought it would be a good idea to catch up on some of my tutorials and blogs, starting with a video. And I want to mainly talk about uh, um, lighting or gradient lighting, as in flatness, right? So, a lot of people when they work on their projects, they do a lot of things, and you'll have different lighting. Um, a lot of them are very dark in areas, and others have some special lighting. But in general, it's a good idea to figure out how light actually works, but also your mood of the game. So, one way of figuring out your lighting is to study different photography and different light. So, what I want to show is even the faintest type of areas have a change in gradient. So there are darks, there are lights, and you can see that there's some quite visible changes even here, and then there's this one, and then there's this one, and then there's this one. These are all different in tone or value specifically. And I talk about it because if I just hold over and you look at the screen, just see how it changes. Same goes here. And I want you to pay attention to the color swatch over here. See how it goes up and down? Where is it? Let's do this. Let's do like this one. Might be easier for you guys to pay attention. It goes up and down. Now if I turn off the hue and saturation, this is how it looks like. And you can then see the color. And what I want to point out is, look at the color. Look at how it jumps from one side to another. So, for example, let's take this area and I'll switch over to my brush. Let's turn this off. Look at this. See how it changes in its tone. These are quite obvious things, but a lot of people don't really think about it when they're doing the lighting. Not only are there different colors, you could argue this is part of the texture, right? But not necessarily true in all events. And the reason for that is, as I change it, you'll notice differences in its value, in where it's the strong one, where it's the weak one, and generally how it works. Now, if I turn on hue and saturation, move this down here. Let's put this one here, and this one there. Look at the difference. And now if I do this, we'll get a more clear idea of how it jumps a lot. It goes up and down, up and down. And that's important to understand when you're working with light, is you don't want to make sure, you want to make sure it changes in its let's say brightness, I guess. But if I turn off the saturation and do it again, you'll also notice it changes in saturation and hue. And generally when you work with light, you'll also notice a pattern that it jumps from left to right. So it goes like this, downwards. So let's take another look at another example. Take this one for example. Go here. Before I do that, let's make a new layer. So if I do this, 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 and this, and over here, let's do this, this, and this. Over here, let's do this, this, and this. Do you see? That is really an important, interesting change to keep in mind. So again, take a new layer, see this, this, and this. Keep an eye up here again, see how it jumps and changes in value. Look at the saturation and brightness. There's a lot of changes. So that's important to keep in mind, that there's different gradient. Now, something you notice is, for me, when I work on light, I also focus on other things. I'm not always looking for realism. With that, I mean, if you look at this, you'll notice how it jumps around everywhere. In this cover, if I really go slow, let's say I take this. You'll see it's jumping a lot. Now, if you turn on hue and saturation, you can see the strength and the intensity of it, how it really looks, so to speak. So if there was a color over it, you'll see that it changes, even though the visuals are different. With color though, it's jumping a lot. Let's have a look at this one, and again, you'll see that this one, being a bright day, you have even color on one side, which is the shadow side. Actually, let's do it again. There you go. It's more or less even. Then there's light, it jumps. Have a look. And it's even, it's staying in the mid ground. Then it jumps a bit. Then it goes back to somewhat even. But let's have a look here. If I do this brush, this is the this is the shadow side, this is the other shadow side, and this is closer to the brighter side. even more closer, the brightest side. Go here, 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 and here, there, and there. See how it actually is different? Well, it is changing, although when you look at it from this point of view, you might think it's not actually changing, but it is changing quite a lot as it progresses. And that's important to understand and have an eye for. Of course, when you have color, you'll see it's actually also jumping in terms of the type of color. There's the sky, there's the bounce, even here you'll have a tint of blue. But if you just look at the strength of it, shadow side and the light side, again, different colors being picked up by the environment. Even here, different spots. The brightest side, this is the brightest, and it has a color, but it's on the white side. Blue one is up high. Then as you go here, it's in the midground. This one is in the midground, and then it pops up there. Hue and saturation, it's in the midground, it's in the midground, and it pops back up there. Okay, so regardless of the color, there's a certain pattern when it comes to how things pop up. Let's take this off. Have a look at this one. This one also have certain color tone to it. And as you see, a lot of them are very subtle changes. Take off the hue and saturation, you get the colors, the spot they have different color to make sure that it's varied. Okay. Hue and saturation. Look how it jumps up and down. Let's do a big one. This is quite important. So just see how it goes up and down, up and down. Let's say this one is more or less in the middle. Take off the colors. It's still in the middle. Here. Back with the hue. See, it's still in the middle. So sometimes when you work with things, it's a good idea to really look at the images and understand things in black and white. So let's see. I'll do this one, this one. Of course, I'm skipping ahead a bit. This is often called light fixture. There are different ways of getting this effect, technically speaking. But we don't want to worry too much about that. What's important is understanding the light has a certain gradient value to it. And once you understand that, it's a lot easier to analyze your own lighting and how to make sure it's more visually interesting and pleasing. See? Color, no color. See how it jumps in value? Darkest, the brightest, and then you have a mix of mid. That's with the color. Of course it jumps differently once you have the color to it, and that's why it might be a bit confusing. So if I pick this one, you see that. Let's do copy this one over there. Like so. It's more or less on the same value, so that's important. It's important to understand that once you add color, it just changes. It changes a little bit. And right, so it looks differently once you have the color over it. There's another one. Let's just look at the colors with the colors to start understand that the colors itself have a saturation, a strength, and a value to it. And when we do this, it's just black and white and has a different saturation to it. And understanding the saturation, as in the value, when I say value, of these things is quite important. Here's another one. Look at this. Bam. 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 Go under here. So that's important when you look at the images. It's all slowly fading away when you do your kind of work. Be it coloring or lighting, to be honest, doesn't really matter. Same here. It's important to understand how color functions. So let's jump ahead, and I'm not done with these, but this is some of my own stuff I'm lighting up at the moment. And a good way for me to analyze my own images is to do the same, is to have a look at does it vary, does it go up and down. So for instance, this area I'm probably gonna do another round net, because if you look at it from a, if you look at this, goes the brightest spots, and then it's within the same range, but I probably want to make sure this one is brighter before it goes dark, because once it's dark it's still fairly flat. And you can see the background. Might want to increase these as well. So I'll probably will work with a bit with these values. This is how it really looks like, and you'll notice it jumps a lot in color, but notice that the brightest spots has the brightest type of color. I mean, I go here, there's the darker colors, so I probably want to have a look at that and do some changes. So let's have a look at this version. These are different versions. Bright, and then it goes down, then it goes down. So this one has a bit more better range of value, but that's also because in this one I had more lights controlling. So this one is a fairly decent, but I probably would want to make sure I have more going up here as well, because right now that is the brightest spot and that's the way I'm going for. So have a look at it. It goes like this and then it slowly goes downwards. So just about here I'm gonna probably go this way because I want it to be darker, not brighter. You can see that it's started a bit and then it went left, but it should be going towards the right more. So that's something I'm gonna have to have a look at, and it's probably because of this. And you have different color and variation that goes on. So this one this area is was fairly okay. Keep in mind these are actually different images and they have different type of light sources. This one is okay. This one probably want to have more in this area. Let's have a look at this one. It's, dark and brightest spot, then it goes back up to the darkness. Okay, this is how it looks like. Now you might notice one of the main differences is this one is purely, look at this, probably might try and have a brighter area here. Have a look at this one. You can see it jumps a bit more, so you can tell that I've increased the intensity in some of these areas. Here's another one. This is probably one of the oldest one. You can tell that it's fairly flat because it's fairly even, right? It's well lit to the point that it might be too well lit. And you can see that it's hard to have the darkest area. So if you go to this one, which is the latest one, you'll see that there are some hot spots in terms of light, and then there are some darker spots, which is kind of what you want to aim for. If I were to do some color swatches on my image, you could then quickly have a look of how it's really looking like. Same goes for this one. I could again, instead of going black and white in the beginning, just quickly do swatches. And we have a look. And that way we can then have a look and figure out how well our area is truly lit. And you can also do it this way, in that you just work your way and then I do this, and I can kind of get an idea of how it's doing in terms of that. Another way, if I remember it, let's see. I believe this one maybe. You can also do this technique, and it gives you a general idea of your color palette. In other words, this one has already been ruined a bit, but so if I do this, I can get an idea of, okay, that's the brightest spots, right? I could do it for this one as well. Let me just go to pixelate, mosaic. Let's make sure we actually select the image we want to manipulate. Do pixelate, mosaic, and depending on the cell size, let's just do like a lot of them. And you can see the general filter thing. And let's do here again, filter. That's a bit too much. Random pixelate, mosaic. In this case, it's a smaller image, so we can go for something like this. And you can continue, and you can quickly pump through a lot of these to get an idea. And as you see, you kind of have to tweak it according to how big your image is, right? And that actually will help you. You can do big ones as well, so it gives you very general gist of your color values and how you're doing in terms of pixels. And you don't need to have black and white, but having black and white is definitely a very quick way of doing things. And you can compare with yourself and have a look. You can see as the foreground is quite dark. Okay, this, and then if I go back here, these are some of our interiors, some of our exteriors. So of course, if I go to the bedroom and try it on this one, but make sure that it has a lot more. These are big windows. Mine does not have any windows, so we can see there's a big huge difference. These, for example, let's try this one. Hue and saturation, mosaic. That's not blurry enough. So these have a lot of light sources and comparison, a lot of dark spots. That's a very good. That's one method of kind of looking at things. So I could also do, say, I could do sci-fi images, or I could do sci-fi corridor, because I'm using a different machine right now. And you could look for let's do halo corridor. That's, for example, this isn't the finished one actually. Let's, for example, take this one and the picture, save, and add this one to the now let's do hue and saturation, turn down the saturation, and we can see how it is. But notice that if I do pixel mosaic, and compare, you'll notice that suddenly mine doesn't look that different depending on where the shots are. Seems to be using the same gradient, and if I do this, you'll notice as well. But let's have a look at this one. This has a front. These are the front one, and they are supposed to be dark. But looking at this and this one, so if I were to cheat and focus on the areas that are identical, you'll notice that they are fairly similar in saturation, and this one being the brightest one compared to this one. So these are things you could do to truly have a look at things and get an idea of things. But there are other ways, of course. You can use other images, you can really investigate the concepts a bit. So let's go for a star citizen. You can probably tell I have a general idea of things. Let's just go for this one. I believe it's the same type of assets that's being used on the scene I'm using, actually. In saturation, go for black, and here you can see it's going as well a lot of backup, but it has a lot of mid ground, right? So let's do filter, and you can now see the main difference. So let's actually have a look. So arguably you would say, I don't want to look at this one because that's way too old. Let's look at this one. So this one, arguably you would say this should be more, maybe more mid-ground, more mid values. Really depends on the mood and feeling you're going for. So I would literally go and eventually, when I've done something, I would literally just look at things and I would investigate what I want and what I don't want. But it's quite important that you have an understanding of, I'm not mentioning names because they may pop up here, who are the owners of these images, and it also pop up here. And let's have a look again. Saturation, you can see how the light works here. Goes a bit more up and down, so it really does matter. It does matter what you're going for. Then I would just go back and forth and have an idea. Of course, my perspective is different and the type of game is different, but it's a good practice. So hopefully this is useful and this help, and hopefully you can use these study methods to really understand your lighting and process. Thank you.